Barbara, you need to see this. Your brother just sold your property. Those words from my lawyer felt like a splash of cold water on a Wednesday morning in Berlin. I was in my small apartment, coffee halfway to my lips, trying to comprehend what Douglas had just told me over the phone. My name is Barbara, and I'm 27 years old. For the past 3 years, I've worked as a graphic designer at a marketing agency in Germany. I left Tampa right after college, chasing a dream of living abroad and seeing the world beyond what I'd always known. My parents had supported my move, even though my older brother Tyler made it clear he thought I was being reckless. At 32, married with 2 kids, he had always positioned himself as the responsible one in the family. What property? I asked Douglas, setting my coffee down, my hand trembling slightly. Your grandmother's condo in Tampa, the one she left you in her will. My stomach dropped. Grandma Eleanor had passed away 6 months earlier, and I'd flown home for the funeral. It had been heartbreaking. She was the one person in my family who truly understood my desire to explore, who always encouraged me to take chances. But I had no idea she'd left me anything. I didn't know about any condo, I said slowly. Nobody told me. There was a pause on the line. Barbara, you were named the sole beneficiary of that property in her will. It was a 2-bedroom condo in downtown Tampa valued at around $350,000. Your brother sold it last week for $320,000. My mind spun. $350,000. That was life-changing money, enough to pay off my student loans, maybe even buy a small place of my own someday. And Tyler had just sold it. How could he even do that? I demanded. If it was left to me, how could he sell it? That's what I'm trying to determine, Douglas said carefully. I received the probate documents yesterday, and something doesn't add up. I'm looking into it now, but Barbara, please don't contact your brother yet. Let me investigate first. I agreed, even though every part of me wanted to call Tyler immediately and demand answers. Instead, I sat there, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of it all. Grandma Eleanor had always held a special place in my life. While my parents were busy running their restaurant and Tyler focused on his career in insurance, Grandma was the one who spent hours with me looking through travel magazines, listening to me dream about faraway places. She had traveled widely in her youth before marrying my grandfather and settling in Florida. When I told my family I was moving to Germany, Tyler had been the loudest critic. You're throwing away your future, he'd said during dinner. What kind of career can you build over there? You're being selfish, leaving Mom and Dad to handle everything here. My parents were more supportive, though I could tell they wished I'd stayed closer. But Grandma had pulled me aside before I left, squeezing my hand. Go, she'd whispered. See the world while you're young. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for wanting more. Now, sitting in Berlin with gray light filtering through my window, I realized I'd never be able to thank her properly. And somehow, Tyler had taken away the last gift she meant for me. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Mom. Tyler said he finally sold Grandma's condo. Such a relief to have that handled. Hope you're doing well in Germany, sweetie. I stared at the screen, anger rising in my chest. My mom had no idea. She believed the condo belonged to Tyler, thinking he was simply managing family matters. She didn't realize what Grandma had truly intended. I typed back a neutral reply, my fingers tense around the phone. Glad it worked out. Talk soon. Then I called Douglas. I need to know everything, I said. How did this happen? I'm working on it, he assured me. I've requested all the sale documents. If your brother forged or misrepresented anything, we'll uncover it. Just give me a few days. Those days felt endless. I went through the motions at work, designing promotional materials for a hotel chain. But my thoughts were miles away in Tampa. I kept replaying memories of Grandma Eleanor, our last visit before she fell ill. She'd looked fragile but content, telling me stories of her travels to Morocco in the 1960s. You remind me of who I used to be, she'd said, squeezing my hand. Promise me you'll keep exploring, Barbara. Don't let life make you small. I had promised, and now I was discovering she'd tried to give me the means to keep that promise. Growing up, Tyler and I were never especially close. The 5-year age gap put us in different worlds, and our personalities clashed. He was calculated, ambitious, and image-driven. I was creative, impulsive, and valued experiences over possessions. Our relationship worsened after I moved to Germany. During family video calls, Tyler often accused me of wasting my potential or avoiding real life. My parents tried to mediate, but I could see how torn they were. Tyler always cast himself as the devoted son, the one who stayed close and handled family responsibilities. When Grandma became ill, I flew back immediately. Tyler seemed irritated by my presence, as if I were trespassing in his domain. He'd named himself her primary caretaker, managing her medical and financial affairs. At the time, I was too tired and heartbroken to question it. It seemed easier to let him take charge. But now, I couldn't help but wonder what else he had managed behind the scenes. While waiting for updates, I found myself remembering Grandma more vividly. Widowed for 15 years, she had lived alone in the condo she'd bought after Grandpa died. It was her pride and freedom, a space she'd chosen for herself after decades in the house my grandfather had picked. She used to call it her Independence headquarters. The condo overlooked the Tampa waterfront, with a balcony filled with plants and cozy chairs. During college breaks, I'd visit her there, and we'd spend hours on that balcony, sipping tea and talking about everything from politics to poetry. She was the only one in my family who never made me feel out of place for wanting a different life. Then, on Friday evening, Douglas called. His tone was tight, laced with restrained anger. "Barbara," he said, "I've reviewed all the documents. Your brother committed fraud." I sank onto the couch. "Tell me everything." "Your grandmother's will was explicit. The condo was left to you, along with a letter explaining she wanted you to have financial security while building your life abroad. Tyler, as the estate's executor, had access to the will but no legal claim to the property. So how did he sell it?" "He forged documents," Douglas said flatly. "He fabricated paperwork showing the condo was left to him. He presented those to the real estate agent and buyers. The sale went through because no one questioned it." My hands trembled. "That's illegal." "Very illegal," Douglas replied. "It's fraud, forgery, and theft. The good news is the sale can be reversed. The bad news, it's going to be complicated. Your brother has already spent part of the money. How do you know?" "I did some digging," he said. "He'd just made a down payment on a new house last week, an expensive one in a gated community. I realized he must have planned to use the condo money to upgrade his lifestyle." My stomach turned. While I was working a modest job in Berlin, carefully managing every euro, Tyler had been stealing my inheritance to fund his family's luxury. What should I do? I asked. "First," Douglas said, "I'm filing a legal complaint with the Tampa court. That'll freeze any remaining funds from the condo sale and start reversing the transaction. Second, I need you to gather every piece of documentation showing your connection with your grandmother. Emails, letters, anything that reflects her intentions. And third, prepare yourself. This could seriously strain your family relationships. Your brother will fight back." "Let him fight," I replied, surprised at the firmness in my own voice. "He stole from me. He committed fraud." "I know," Douglas said calmly, "and we'll prove it. But remember, your parents will be caught in the middle of this. You need to be ready." I thought of my mom's cheerful message about how relieved she was that Tyler had handled the condo situation. She had no idea what he'd actually done. When she found out, it would break her heart. Still, I couldn't let Tyler get away with it, not just because of the money, though that mattered, but because Grandma Eleanor had clearly wanted me to have that condo. Her will made her wishes plain, yet Tyler had decided his desires outweighed her final gift to me. That weekend, I went through my old emails and found dozens from Grandma Eleanor. She'd learned to use email in her 70s, and we'd written often while I lived in Germany. Reading them now brought tears to my eyes. In one email from 2 years ago, she wrote, "I'm so proud of you for following your dreams, Barbara. Your grandfather always said I gave up too much when we married, that I should have kept traveling. I don't regret my life, but I want you to know it's okay to want more. Don't let anyone tell you ambition is unfeminine or that wanting to see the world makes you selfish. You're the bravest person I know." In another, written just 8 months before she passed away, she said, "I've been thinking about my will lately. I want you to know I'm making sure you'll have financial security no matter what. You're building such a beautiful life in Germany, and I want to support that. Don't worry about the details, I'm taking care of you." I forwarded these emails to Douglas, along with photos from our visits and a birthday card where she'd written how proud she was of my independence. On Monday morning, Douglas called with an update. "The legal complaint's filed. The court has frozen the sale funds, so your brother can't touch the remaining money. He's been notified of the legal action. Has he contacted you yet?" "Not yet," I said. "He will soon," Douglas warned. "Be ready, things will move quickly now." I wasn't ready. Not at all, because what happened next was something I never could have expected. Tuesday morning in Berlin. Monday night in Tampa. My phone rang at 2 a.m. I woke up startled from a dream about Grandma Eleanor's balcony. The sound was sharp and jarring. It was Tyler. My heart pounded as I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to let it ring out, but I knew I couldn't avoid this forever. I answered, "Barbara, finally." Tyler's tone was upbeat, almost manic. "I've been trying to reach you." "Listen, I've got amazing news." I sat up and turned on the lamp. "What news?" "I sold Grandma's condo." "Got a great price, too. And here's the best part. I'm going to give you $10,000 from the sale. You know, since you came back for the funeral and everything. Figured you could use a little boost over there in Germany." I was stunned. He was actually boasting, calling me in the middle of the night to brag about selling my inheritance, and then offering me a tiny fraction of it like it was some generous favor. 10,000? I managed to say. "I know, right?" "Pretty generous," he replied. "Considering I handled all the estate stuff. I mean, you've been off in Europe and someone had to deal with probate, the realtor, all that. It's been a huge hassle, but hey, family takes care of family, right?" I gripped my phone so tightly I thought it might crack. "Tyler," I asked slowly, "when exactly did you sell the condo?" "Closed on it last week. Why? And you're just telling me now?" He laughed. "Well, yeah. I wanted to make sure everything was finalized before getting everyone excited. You know how real estate can fall through. But it's all done now. Money's in my account, and I'm ready to write you that check." "Your account?" I repeated. "Well, yeah," he said casually. "I was the executor of the estate. Everything had to go through me. But don't worry, I'm sharing the wealth. 10,000, Barbara. That's enough for a nice getaway or whatever you want to spend it on." I inhaled slowly, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Tyler, I need to ask you something. Did Grandma leave a will?" There was a beat. "Of course she did. Why? What did it say about the condo?" Another pause, longer this time. "It left the estate to be split among the family. Standard stuff." His tone shifted. "Why are you asking so many questions? You don't trust me or something?" "I'm just trying to understand the details," I said. "You should have cared about that earlier," he shot back. "Like when you moved across the world instead of staying to help with family responsibilities. I'm the one who handled everything. I sat with Grandma when she was dying. I arranged the funeral, took care of probate, sold the condo. You flew in for 3 days and then went back to your little life in Germany." His words stung, clearly meant to manipulate. "Yes, I was living abroad, but I had spoken to Grandma Eleanor every week. I'd been there for her in my own way, and she supported my choices. I appreciate you handling those things," I said carefully. "But I need to confirm the will. Who did it say the condo should go to?" "Barbara, it's 2 a.m. here, right? You sound tired. Let's talk later. I'll have Mom send you my bank info so you can get the transfer." "Okay, Tyler, I have to go. Kids have early swim practice tomorrow." "Talk soon, little sis." He hung up before I could answer. I sat in my dim apartment, phone still warm in my hand, feeling a weird mix of anger and almost pity. Tyler genuinely seemed to believe he'd done nothing wrong. Or maybe he knew and hoped I'd be so thankful for the $10,000 that I wouldn't press him. Either way, he'd made a critical error. He'd called to boast about the sale, which meant he had no idea Douglas had already filed the complaint. He didn't know the funds were frozen or that the court was investigating forged documents. He thought he'd gotten away with it. I phoned Douglas immediately, despite the hour. He picked up on the second ring, alert. "He just called me," I said without preamble. "Tyler called to brag about the sale. He offered me $10,000 like it was a favor." Douglas was quiet for a moment. "Did he say anything about the will or ownership?" He lied. He claimed the estate was to be divided among family and acted like giving me anything was generous. "That's good," Douglas said. "It shows he's intentionally misrepresenting the will. If you can, record any future conversations with him. Everything he says could help in court." A small rush of satisfaction warmed me. "So what happens now?" "Now he'll discover the funds are frozen. His bank will alert him likely today. Then he'll learn someone challenged the sale. My bet is he'll assume it was you pretty quickly, and then things will get unpleasant. He'll panic and spin a story to the family to cast you as the bad guy, claim it's a misunderstanding or that you're being greedy. Be ready for that." I thought about my parents and how this would rip the family apart. But I also thought of Grandma Eleanor and how her final wishes were being ignored by her grandson. "I'm ready," I said. "Let him spin whatever he wants. We have the truth." "That's my girl," Douglas said approvingly. "Try to sleep." "Tomorrow will be big. I couldn't sleep." I lay awake until dawn, watching the Berlin sky lighten, picturing Grandma Eleanor's Tampa balcony and wondering what she'd say if she could see this. I felt she'd urge me to fight, and I intended to. The call came 36 hours later. I was at work, sitting in a conference room with my team going over designs for a new restaurant campaign when my phone started buzzing in my pocket. I checked the screen. Tyler, then Mom, then Tyler again, then an unfamiliar number from Florida. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway, feeling sick. This was it. He'd found out. I answered Tyler's call. "Hello, what did you do?" His voice was tight with anger. "What did you do, Barbara?" I kept my voice steady even though my heart pounded. "I don't know what you mean. Don't act dumb. The bank froze the money from the condo sale. There's a legal complaint against me." "Did you do this, Tyler?" "We need to talk about Grandma's will," he said. "There's nothing to talk about. That condo was part of the estate and I handled everything. You have no right to interfere." He was adamant. "The condo was left to me." "It was left to me," I replied softly. "Grandma's will names me specifically. Not you, not the estate, me." A long silence followed. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted, colder and more deliberate. "That's not true. I saw the will. I'm the executor. It was left to the family." "No, Tyler, it was left to me," I continued. "And you know that because you forged documents to make it appear yours." "I didn't forge anything." "This is ridiculous. You've been gone 3 years and now you suddenly show up accusing me. You don't know what you're talking about." He tried to dismiss it. "I have a lawyer. He's seen the real will and the documents you filed with the sale. They don't match. You committed fraud." I could hear him breathing heavily. "You're out of your mind. Mom and Dad are going to hear about this. They'll know what you're doing, trying to steal from family." "I'm not stealing. I'm taking back what Grandma wanted me to have." "She wanted you to have it?" He laughed bitter. "You were always her favorite, off having adventures while the rest of us handled responsibilities. You really think she wanted to reward that?" His words stung, but I pushed on. "What Grandma wanted is in her will, Tyler. Legal documents don't lie. You're the one lying." "You're making a huge mistake." His voice dropped. "You don't know what you're starting. You think you can waltz in from Germany and destroy this family? Mom and Dad will be devastated. Your niece and nephew will grow up knowing their aunt tore the family apart over money. Is that what you want?" "I want what Grandma wanted," I said. "That's all." He hung up. I stood in the office hallway, hands shaking. Jonna, my coworker, poked her head out of the conference room. "Everything okay?" "Family stuff," I managed. "I'll be right back." I went to the restroom and splashed cold water on my face. It was real. I just accused my brother of fraud. There was no undoing it. My phone buzzed again. It was Mom. I knew I couldn't avoid the conversation. "Barbara, honey, what's going on?" Her voice was confused and worried. Tyler called, very upset. He said, "You're suing him?" "I'm not suing, Mom. I filed a complaint about the sale of Grandma's condo." "But why?" "Tyler handled that. He did a good job with the estate matters. I don't understand why you're causing problems now." "Mom, did Tyler show you Grandma's will?" "Not directly. He explained it to us. He said everything was left to the family and he's managing it as executor. That's normal, right? Did you know Grandma left the condo specifically to me?" There was a pause. "Specifically to you?" "Yes, the will names me as the beneficiary of the condo, not Tyler, not the family. She even wrote a letter explaining why." "That can't be right," Mom said slowly. "Tyler said he was selling the condo to settle the estate. He said you'd get a share. He offered me $10,000, Mom. The condo sold for $320,000. Another long pause. "There must be some confusion. Let me talk to Tyler. I'm sure there's an explanation." "Mom, I have a lawyer who reviewed the documents. Tyler forged paperwork to make it look like he could sell the condo. That's fraud. Barbara, that's a serious accusation. Tyler would never do that. He's your brother, responsible and helpful through this awful time after Grandma's death. Maybe you're misunderstanding estate law? It's complicated. Something inside me broke. Even with evidence, Mom seemed to side with Tyler. "Mom, I'm not misunderstanding. Grandma wanted me to have the condo. Tyler knew and took it for himself." "You need to think carefully about this," she said, firmer now. "You're accusing your brother of a crime. Do you realize how this will affect the family? Your father is already upset. Tyler's wife is crying. The kids didn't understand what was going on. And for what? Money. It's not about money, Mom. It's about honoring Grandma's wishes. She'd be heartbroken to see her grandchildren fighting like this. She loved both of us. Yes, she did, I said. And she left me that condo because she wanted to help me start a life in Germany. She told me so in her emails. I have proof. I need to go, my mom said abruptly. Your father and I need to discuss this. But Barbara, I hope you'll think carefully about what you're doing. Family matters more than property. She hung up before I could say anything. I stood there, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My face was flushed, my eyes bright with unshed tears. This was exactly what Douglas had warned me about. Tyler was already shaping his version of the story, painting me as the greedy sister who had abandoned her family and returned only to take what wasn't hers. But I couldn't step back, not when I knew the truth. Over the next week, things spiraled faster than I expected. Tyler hired his own lawyer, who sent Douglas a letter accusing me of harassment and false claims. The letter insisted that Tyler had acted fully within his rights as executor, and that any confusion stemmed from my distance and lack of understanding of estate law. Douglas forwarded me a copy with a short note. Standard intimidation tactics. Don't worry, we have the evidence, but it was hard not to worry. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from relatives. My Aunt Patricia called to say she was disappointed in me for attacking Tyler during such a painful time. My cousin Jennifer texted a long message about how Tyler had always been the dependable one, and that I should be ashamed of myself. Even my dad, who usually avoided family drama, left a voicemail asking me to reconsider the legal action for the sake of peace. The only person who didn't reach out was Tyler. His silence felt heavy, even threatening. At work, I was drained and distracted. The time difference meant late-night calls from Florida, and I was barely sleeping. One afternoon, my boss, Stefan, pulled me aside. Everything okay? He asked. Family issues, I said vaguely. Nothing I can't handle. If you need time off, take it, he offered. You've been here 3 years and never taken a proper vacation. I thanked him but declined. Work was the only thing keeping me grounded, the one place untouched by the chaos back home. On Thursday evening, Douglas called with an update. The court scheduled a hearing for 2 weeks from now. Both sides will present their evidence, and the judge will decide if the sale should be reversed. Do I need to be there? I asked. It would help. Can you fly back to Tampa? I hesitated, thinking about my job, my apartment, my quiet life in Berlin. The idea of flying back for a court hearing felt surreal, like being dragged into a world I'd long left behind. But this was about Grandma Eleanor. This was about doing what was right. I'll be there, I said. That weekend, I booked a flight for the following Thursday. I planned to stay with a college friend in Tampa, avoiding my parents' house altogether. I wasn't ready to face them, not when they still sided with Tyler. Then on Monday, something unexpected happened. I received an email from a woman named Patricia Williams, the buyer of Grandma's condo. The subject line read, "Questions about the property purchase." I opened it with trembling hands. Dear Ms. Barbara, my husband and I recently bought a condominium from your brother Tyler 2 weeks ago. Our attorney has since informed us that there may be legal issues with the sale. We're very worried as we sold our previous home and have already moved in with our children. Tyler presented all necessary documents, and our attorney reviewed everything before we proceeded. We had no reason to believe anything was wrong. Could you please contact me to discuss this matter? We're innocent in whatever dispute exists between you and your brother and are now facing the possibility of losing our home. Sincerely, Patricia Williams. A wave of guilt and sympathy hit me. These people were caught in the middle of Tyler's deception. They bought the condo in good faith, unaware of the lies behind it. Now, because of him, their lives were being upended. I immediately forwarded the email to Douglas. He called within the hour. This actually helps our case, he said. It shows Tyler misled not just you, but the buyers as well. They'll be witnesses to his fraud. But what happens to them? Will they lose the condo? The sale will be voided, yes. But they'll get their money back from the escrow account. They won't lose financially, though they'll need to move out. Unfortunately, they're victims of Tyler's deception, just like you, I replied to Patricia, expressing sympathy and explaining that I hadn't known about the sale until after it happened. I connected her with Douglas so she could understand her options. She responded kindly, thanking me for being considerate despite the situation. The contrast struck me. Strangers were showing more understanding than my own family. Then, on Tuesday, I received a Facebook message from Tyler's wife, Jennifer. We'd always been polite, but not particularly close. Her message surprised me. Barbara, I need to talk to you privately. Can we video chat sometime when Tyler isn't around? I agreed, and we scheduled a call for Wednesday evening, afternoon in Tampa. When Jennifer appeared on my screen, I was startled. She looked exhausted, her eyes red as if she'd been crying. Her usually tidy hair was pulled back messily, and she wore no makeup. "Thank you for talking to me," she said softly. "I know things are tense between you and Tyler." "I'm sorry you're in the middle of this," I replied honestly. She shook her head. "Barbara, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. Did your grandmother really leave that condo to you?" "Yes," I said. "I have a copy of her will. It's very clear." Jennifer closed her eyes for a long moment. "I knew it. The thing I'd feared was true. You didn't know?" She asked quietly. "Tyler told me the condo was his to sell. He said it was part of the estate he was managing as executor. But some of what he said never quite made sense. And after you filed that legal complaint, I started asking more questions. He got defensive, angry, not like himself, or at least not the version of him I thought I knew." She looked away from the camera, her voice trembling. "Barbara, we're in serious trouble. Tyler used most of that money for a down payment on a new house, one far bigger than we can afford. He told me it was fine, said he'd invested well and had enough saved. But if the sale is reversed and we're forced to return the money, we can't. It's already tied up in the new property." My stomach sank. "Jennifer, I'm sorry," I said carefully, "but I can't ignore this. Grandma wanted me to have that condo. Tyler had no right to sell it." "I know," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't blame you. I'm not asking you to drop the complaint. I just think Tyler needs to face what he's done, and I need to face who I married." Jennifer's confession opened a floodgate. Over the next hour, she revealed things about Tyler I'd never known, or maybe had chosen not to see. She described years of small lies, each brushed aside as being for the good of the family or for smart financial planning. He had taken money from his parents without telling her, claiming it was a gift when it was actually a loan he requested. He had lied on loan applications, exaggerating his income. He even convinced her to put their house solely in his name for tax reasons that later proved baseless. "I kept making excuses for him," she said, wiping her eyes. "Telling myself he's just ambitious, that he's doing all this for us. But what he did with your grandmother's condo, that's different. That's not a misunderstanding. That's fraud. And he did it to his own sister. What are you going to do?" I asked softly. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "I need to protect my kids. They can't grow up thinking this kind of behavior is okay. But Barbara, if your lawyer needs me to testify about anything Tyler said regarding the condo, I will. I'll tell the truth." After we hung up, I sat alone in my apartment, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. I had been right about Tyler's fraud, but hearing the full extent of his deception and seeing what it did to Jennifer and the children made me feel sick. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about character, about lies that had been building for years. The next morning, Douglas called with news. "Tyler's lawyer wants to negotiate a settlement," he said. "They're offering $150,000 if you agree to drop the complaint and let the sale stand." "Absolutely not," I said at once. "That condo is worth more than that. And it's not about the money. It's about what Grandma wanted." "I figured you'd say that," Douglas replied. "But Barbara, you need to understand what rejecting this offer means. It means going to court. It means your entire family will be forced to take sides, publicly. Tyler's lawyer is threatening to make this ugly. They plan to argue that your grandmother was mentally incompetent when she wrote her will, that you manipulated her." Anger rose in me. "That's disgusting." Grandma was completely lucid. "We have years of emails proving it." "I know," Douglas said, "and we'll use all of that. But they'll still try. They'll scrutinize every detail of your relationship, every conversation, every visit, every gift she gave you. It's going to be emotionally exhausting. Let them go ahead," I said firmly. Grandma deserved to have her final wishes honored, not dismissed, because Tyler wanted a bigger house. "All right," Douglas replied. "Then we'll proceed to trial. I'll inform Tyler's lawyer that we're rejecting the settlement offer." The hearing was scheduled for Monday. I flew out of Berlin on Thursday, the long flight giving me far too much time to reflect on everything that had happened. I'd left Tampa 3 years ago in search of adventure and independence. Now I was coming back to fight for something my grandmother had intended for me, something my own brother had stolen. My college friend Melanie met me at the airport. She'd been following the situation through my scattered text updates, and she hugged me tightly the moment she saw me. "I can't believe Tyler did this," she said as we drove toward her apartment. "I always thought he was a bit pretentious, but actual fraud? That's a whole new level." "I know," I replied wearily. "I keep hoping I'll wake up and realize it was all a misunderstanding. But it just keeps getting worse." Over the weekend, Melanie tried to keep me distracted with movies and cooking, but my mind kept drifting to the upcoming hearing. On Saturday night, Douglas emailed me our strategy. We'd present the original will, the forged documents Tyler had submitted, and Jennifer's testimony about his comments on the sale. We'd also call Patricia and her husband, the buyers, to show how Tyler had deceived multiple people. On Sunday evening, Douglas called with unexpected news. Barbara, Tyler's lawyer, just reached out with a new settlement offer, he said. "They're offering to reverse the sale completely and transfer the condo to you. Tyler will cover all expenses and logistics involved." I was stunned. "Why the sudden change?" "My guess," Douglas said, "is that Jennifer spoke to him. She probably made it clear she wouldn't back his story. Without her, his defense collapses. His lawyer likely warned him he'd lose badly in court, and this way, he avoids a fraud conviction." "What about Patricia and her family?" I asked. "They'll be refunded in full and released from the deal. Tyler will pay for any additional losses, moving costs, temporary housing, everything. It'll be expensive, but still better than a criminal record," I paused to think. "And if I accept, what happens to Tyler?" Douglas was silent for a moment. "Legally, if you agree and sign a non-disclosure agreement, the fraud charges will probably be dropped. His reputation will take a hit, but he'll avoid prison. Financially, he'll lose whatever money he's already spent and cover the reversal costs. But he won't face jail time, and if I refuse, then we go to court tomorrow. We'll present all the evidence. Tyler would almost certainly be convicted of fraud. He'd get a criminal record, maybe even prison time. His career would collapse, his marriage could fall apart. But you'd have full vindication." I stood by Melanie's window, staring at the Tampa skyline. I thought about Grandma Eleanor. What would she want me to do? Would she want me to ruin Tyler's life, or take what was mine and move on? I considered Jennifer and their children, Patricia's family, and my parents caught in the middle of it all. But then I remembered Tyler's late-night call, bragging about selling the condo and offering me $10,000 as if it were generosity. I thought about the forged documents, the lies, and how he painted me as the villain for wanting what Grandma had left me. "I need to think about it overnight," I told Douglas. "Can I give you my answer in the morning?" "The hearing's at 10. I'll need your decision by 9 at the latest. You'll have it by 8, I promised." That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every moment with Tyler, every conversation with my family, every email from Grandma Eleanor. I thought about justice and forgiveness, revenge and peace, and what it truly meant to be family. By 7 in the morning, I knew what I had to do. I called Douglas. "I'm accepting the settlement," I said. "But I have conditions." "What conditions?" Douglas asked, pen ready. "First, Tyler must personally apologize to me in writing. He needs to admit that he knew the condo was left to me, and that he deliberately misled everyone. No vague excuses, just a clear acknowledgement of what he did." "Go on." "Second, he must apologize to Patricia and her family and reimburse all their expenses, not just what the law requires. That includes moving costs, storage fees, and any deposits they lost on new housing. They were innocent victims of his deception, and he needs to fully make amends." "That's fair. What's next?" "Third, he must write a letter to Mom and Dad explaining exactly what he did, not a softened version that makes him look like the victim, but the complete truth." Douglas paused for a moment. "That one might be tough to enforce. How do we ensure he actually sends it?" "You'll draft it based on the facts of the case. He'll sign it and send it to them with you copied. If he doesn't, the settlement becomes void, and we move forward with criminal charges." "I like it," Douglas said. "Anything else?" I hesitated, then added, "I want it in writing that he can never contest Grandma's will or any other inheritance related to her. Estate, this ends here, completely done. I'll draft the settlement this morning and send it to Tyler's lawyer. Since the hearing is in 3 hours, they'll have to agree quickly or face court." 2 hours later, Douglas called back. "They've agreed to everything." Tyler's signing the papers now. Barbara, you've won. But I didn't feel like I'd won. I just felt drained and sad. Yes, I was getting the condo back, and yes, Tyler was being held accountable. But my family felt broken. Maybe for good. The brother I'd grown up with, despite our differences, had become someone I barely recognized. When do I get the condo? I asked. The paperwork will take about 2 weeks to process. Patricia and her family have 30 days to move out, and Tyler's covering their expenses. After that, the property will be transferred to your name. You can keep it, sell it, or rent it out. It's yours. That afternoon, I met Douglas at a cafe near Melanie's apartment. He handed me a folder with the settlement documents, including Tyler's written apology. I opened it with unsteady hands. Dear Barbara, it read, I acknowledge that our grandmother Eleanor's will specifically left her condominium to you as the sole beneficiary. I was aware of this when I served as executor of her estate. Despite knowing her wishes, I falsified documents to make it appear that the property had been left to me, and I sold it without your knowledge or consent. I deceived you, our parents, the buyers, and everyone involved. My actions were fraudulent and broke. The trust placed in me as executor, I apologize. For the harm and confusion I caused, I take full responsibility for reversing this transaction and ensuring that Grandma's wishes are honored, as they should have been from the start. Tyler. It was formal, factual, but reading those words, seeing my brother admit fraud in writing, made everything painfully real. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a family disagreement. Tyler had committed a crime, and now he had to face it. He also sent the letter to your parents this morning, Douglas said quietly. I've got confirmation. I nodded, speechless. I imagined my mom reading that letter, seeing Tyler confess. Part of me felt justified, but mostly I just felt sad about what our family had become. What happens now? I asked. Now you wait for the property. Transfer Patricia and her family are already preparing to move. Tyler's managing everything directly. You just need to decide what you want to do with the condo once it's officially yours. I spent the next week in Tampa avoiding my parents' calls. I wasn't ready to speak to them yet. I met with Patricia and her husband to apologize for the disruption, and they were incredibly understanding. We're just glad the truth came out, Patricia said. We could have been trapped in legal trouble for years. Your brother made mistakes, but at least he's fixing them now. One afternoon, I visited Grandma Eleanor's condo. I stood outside, looking up at the balcony where we'd spent so many hours talking. Patricia had invited me inside, and as I walked through the rooms, I noticed how she had decorated the space. It looked different from how Grandma kept it, but her presence still lingered everywhere. This was a good home, Patricia said quietly. We were happy here even if it didn't last long. I hope whoever lives here next will love it as much as we did. I thanked her and left, already certain about what I wanted to do with the property. On my final day in Tampa before flying back to Berlin, Jennifer asked to meet for coffee. We picked a neutral spot, a busy Starbucks, where it was unlikely we'd run into family. She looked better than during our last video call, more composed, though I could still sense the exhaustion in her eyes. I wanted to thank you, she said after we ordered, for not pressing criminal charges. I didn't do it for Tyler, I replied honestly. I did it for you, the kids, and for Grandma. She would have wanted peace over revenge, Jennifer nodded slowly. Tyler and I are separating. I'm taking the kids and moving in with my parents for now. I need time to decide if this marriage can be saved, and honestly, I'm not sure it can. Finding out about the condo was just the final straw after years of ignoring red flags. I'm sorry, I said sincerely. Don't be, she answered. This is on Tyler, not you. You only wanted what was rightfully yours. He's the one who turned it into deception. She stirred her coffee, looking distant. He's struggling. We had to sell the new house at a loss. We can't afford the mortgage without the condo funds. He's embarrassed at work after the fraud rumors spread. And our parents, they're barely speaking to him, I frowned. How are they? Mom called me yesterday in tears. She said she never imagined Tyler would do this. She doesn't know how to face you after siding with him so completely. Dad's angry, at Tyler, but also at himself for not questioning things sooner. They haven't called me, I said quietly. They're ashamed, she admitted. They stood by Tyler when you were telling the truth. And now they have to live with that. We sat silently for a moment, sipping our drinks. Then Jennifer asked, "What will you do with the condo?" "I'm selling it," I said. "I can't keep it, not with all the memories tied to it. But I'll use the money as Grandma intended, to build my life in Germany. I'm thinking about starting my own design studio, maybe taking international clients. It'll give me the security to take that leap." Jennifer smiled faintly. She'd love that. "Grandma always said you were the brave one, the one who wanted more than what was expected. Tyler used to tease you for that." "I know," I said. "He was jealous," she added. "You had the courage to start fresh while he stayed stuck, trying to prove himself through money and status. In some ways, you were everything he wished he could be." I had never seen it that way before, but maybe she was right. Tyler's fraud wasn't only about greed, it was resentment. Resentment that I had escaped the family patterns he couldn't break, that I'd found a kind of freedom he couldn't imagine. Before we parted, Jennifer hugged me tightly. "I hope someday we can be a family again, not the dysfunctional one we were, but something better. Honest, healthier. Maybe," I said. "But it'll take time. A lot of time." I flew back to Berlin the next day, emotionally drained but strangely at peace. The condo transfer would be finalized within a week, and then I could move forward with selling it. Douglas had already connected me with a reliable agent in Tampa who specialized in downtown listings. Back at work, I threw myself into new projects with renewed focus. Stefan noticed. "Whatever you were dealing with, it seems resolved," he said. "Getting there," I replied. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. I'm thinking of going freelance, starting my own studio. I'd still like to collaborate with the agency, but I need to explore new opportunities." Stefan smiled. "I was wondering when you'd take that step." "You've been ready. Let's figure out how to make it work for both of us." Over the next month, while the condo sale processed, I began building my new business. I reconnected with former colleagues, launched a portfolio website, and networked within Berlin's creative community. The freedom felt both thrilling and intimidating, but I kept remembering Grandma Eleanor's words. "Don't let life make you small." The condo sold quickly once it was officially mine. The buyers, a young couple expecting their first child, felt like the right fit. New life, new beginnings, a fresh start in the space Grandma had cherished. When the sale money arrived, $350,000, I stared at the number for a long time. It was exactly what Grandma had intended for me. Tyler had tried to take it, but in the end, justice had prevailed. I used part of it to pay off my student loans, another portion to fund my new studio, and invested the rest carefully, creating a safety net that allowed me to take creative risks without fear. 3 months after returning to Berlin, an unexpected email appeared from my mother. The subject line read, "I'm sorry." My hands trembled as I opened it. "Dear Barbara, I've started this email countless times and deleted it just as often. I don't know how to express how sorry I am for not believing you, for taking Tyler's side without question, for making you feel like you were the problem when all you were doing was standing up for what was right. Your father and I have done a lot of reflection over the past few months. We've had to face some difficult truths about our family, about how we treated you differently from Tyler, and how we ignored your valid concerns while excusing his worst behavior. There's no justification for our actions. You deserved our trust and support, and we failed to give you that. Tyler's deceit wasn't only a betrayal of you, it was also a betrayal of your grandmother's wishes, which makes it even harder to accept. She wanted to provide for you, to ensure you had security while building your life abroad, and Tyler tried to take that away. We should have questioned him, asked to see the will ourselves, and listened when you said something was wrong. I understand if you can't forgive us right now. I understand if you need space, or even decide not to have us in your life again. We'll live with the consequences of our choices. But please know that we love you and are deeply proud of you. We're amazed by the life you've built in Germany, the courage it took to start over across the world and create something meaningful. Your grandmother saw that strength in you. I only wish we had too. If you ever feel ready to talk, we'll be here. With love and regret." When I finished reading the email, tears filled my eyes. It wasn't everything I had hoped for, but it was a beginning. It showed honesty, remorse, and the first step toward possibly rebuilding something with my parents. I didn't reply right away. I needed time to process and decide what kind of relationship I wanted with them. But I saved the email and didn't delete their contact. The door wasn't fully closed. My new design studio launched in November, 6 months after the condo ordeal began. I called it Eleanor Creative, in honor of my grandmother and the opportunity her gift had given me. My first client was a boutique hotel chain in Austria, followed by a sustainable fashion brand in Copenhagen. The projects were challenging and fulfilling, far more rewarding than my old job. I hired an assistant, a talented young designer named Petra, who reminded me of myself when I started, ambitious and full of creative energy. We worked well together, and the studio slowly grew. On what would have been Grandma Eleanor's 85th birthday, I took the day off and went to a nearby park. With a thermos of tea, I sat on a bench thinking about her balcony in Tampa, our long talks, her life, and the legacy she left. "Thank you," I whispered to the wind. "Thank you for seeing me, for believing in me, for giving me the chance to build something real. I won't waste it." A few weeks before Christmas, a package arrived from Florida. Inside was a small box and a note from my mother. "This was your grandmother's. She would want you to have it." I opened it to find Grandma Eleanor's silver watch, the one she wore every day. On the back, I noticed an engraving I'd never seen before. "The world is waiting." I put it on immediately, feeling its gentle weight and the history it carried. It was a reminder of where I came from and where I was going. Tyler never reached out to me directly. Through Jennifer, whom I stayed in touch with occasionally, I heard he'd taken a lower-paying job after losing his position at the insurance company. Though no charges were filed, the fraud allegations had damaged his reputation. He and Jennifer divorced and shared custody of their children. He'd moved into a modest apartment and was trying to rebuild. I didn't take pleasure in his downfall, but I didn't feel guilty either. Tyler had made his own choices, and now faced their consequences. He'd tried to steal from his sister and undermine his grandmother's final wishes. The outcome was his doing, not mine. My relationship with my parents began to mend slowly and cautiously. We video called occasionally, brief, sometimes awkward conversations that gradually became easier. They still didn't fully understand my life in Berlin, but they were making an effort. That meant something. 1 year after Grandma Eleanor's passing, I returned to Tampa for a memorial gathering her friends had arranged. My parents were there. We hugged, stiffly but sincerely. Tyler wasn't invited, which everyone accepted. After the service, my mother pulled me aside. "Your grandmother left you a letter," she said. "She told me to give it to you if anything ever happened with the condo." She must have suspected Tyler might try something. She handed me a yellowed sealed envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. "My dearest Barbara," it began, in Grandma's familiar handwriting. "If you're reading this, something has gone wrong with my estate. I wanted you to have the condo because you understand what freedom means and what it costs to build a life on your own terms. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for wanting it. Don't let family pressure silence what you know is right. You've always been stronger and braver than anyone realizes. Stand up for yourself. Fight for what's yours. And remember, I'm proud of you every single day. All my love, Grandma Eleanor." I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into my purse. My eyes blurred with tears. Even after death, Grandma had known. She'd anticipated what might happen and left me the strength I needed to hear. "Thank you for this," I told my mother. She nodded, eyes red. "She was right about you," she said softly. "You're stronger than any of us knew." Tyler never fully recovered from the scandal. The legal settlement became public record, and word spread quickly in Tampa's professional circles. His career in insurance ended, and he eventually found work in retail management, earning a fraction of his former salary. His children grew old enough to understand what happened, and their questions about honesty and integrity were difficult for him to answer. He'd lost his marriage, his career, and much of his family's respect. The brother who once appeared responsible and successful had been revealed as dishonest, and that reputation would follow him for the rest of his life. 2 years later, I stood on a rooftop terrace in Berlin, celebrating the launch of a major project my studio had completed. I wore Grandma Eleanor's watch and a new dress I'd bought without hesitation. My business was thriving, my life full of creativity and genuine friendships. Looking back on everything with Tyler and the condo, I realized something important. Grandma's true gift wasn't just the condo or the money. It was the lesson that I was worth defending. That my dreams and my future were worth standing up for, even against family. Tyler had tried to take that away, but instead he helped me discover a strength I never knew I had. And that, in the end, was worth more than any inheritance.